Further contributions? The Honourable Dr. Peter Phelps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. I want to talk a little bit about pesticides. There are a lot of people out in the community who've been revved up by extreme environmentalists who believe that our health is threatened by chemicals and GM crops. These eco-fundamentalists lead a crusade against intensive agriculture. I want to demolish some of the myths of this pseudoscience. Nowadays, you hear a lot about organic farming. It commands such wide public support that to question its merits seems to question the very virtue of motherhood. Nearly every famous cookery expert takes it for granted that organic food tastes better and is more nutritious and healthier. Nearly every environmentalist is convinced that organic farming is better for the environment. The simple fact is that all farming is organic. Every farmer is an environmentalist. Why? Not because of some lofty ideal dreamt up in an inner city cafe, but because their very livelihood depends on the good governance of their land, their flora and their fauna. As such, the organic farming movement, capital O, capital F, capital M, is meaningless. But to the ordinary public, the label organic has a reassuring ring. Eating organic food is like drinking real ale. It sounds safe because it's guaranteed to be pesticide-free or GM-free and is assumed to be untainted by chemicals. Supermarkets promote it, which they would not do unless there was a confected popular demand for it. And it's also clearly in their interest to ensure that consumers pay a premium price for it. Now, evidence to justify this enthusiasm has proved elusive. The British Food Standards Agency, set up to examine evidence about the safety of food and to protect the interest of consumers, has persistently refused to uphold claims for the superiority of organic food, much to the chagrin of those who would seek to profit from such a label. The FSA in 2004 stated, and I quote, "On the basis of current evidence, the agency's assessment is that organic food is not significantly different in terms of food safety and nutrition from food produced conventionally." When a complaint was made to the UK Advertising Standards Authorities that recruiting leaflets published by the Soil Association made misleading statements claiming that organic food tastes better, is healthier and is better for the environment, the authority found no convincing evidence to support the claims and the leaflets had to be withdrawn. It's not surprising that these two independent bodies should find no evidence to support the claims, because public faith in organic food is based on a myth. The organic movement is governed by rules that have no rhyme or reason. It's steeped in mysticism and pseudoscience in the way that the anti-vaxxer movement is steeped in mysticism and pseudoscience. And whenever it seeks to make a scientific case for itself, the science is shown to be flawed. The philosophical reasons for supporting organic farming are part of the back-to-nature syndrome, like alternative medicine, which the humorist Tim Minchin described as only called alternative to medicine because if it actually worked, it would just be called medicine. Like alternative medicine, they are based on the belief that nature knows best and that what is natural must be good. It's a nostalgia for a mythical golden age of small-scale and simple farming and pure and wholesome food product. Such a paradise never existed. The life before intensive farming was solitary, nasty, poor, brutish and short. In the days before intensive farming, when farmers did not use pesticides or artificial fertilisers, Food supplies were constantly endangered through climatic and environmental fluctuations, and crops were frequently lost to pests and diseases. Agriculture was associated with grinding poverty, intensive labour and low yield. In the last 50 years, since synthetic chemicals came to become widely used, our life expectancy has increased 7 years or more. Healthier and safer food, together with better health provision, has improved our physical well-being and increased longevity, and modern agriculture deserves much of the credit. Since the main reason given for buying organic food is to avoid pesticide residues, the question has to be asked, is organic food safer? The answer is no. The evidence is clearly in favour of the current practices of agriculture. By demanding total elimination of all pesticide residues from our foodstuffs, the organic movement promotes an unreasonable fear of chemicals and scares us about non-existent dangers. The public is not made aware of the beneficial effects which having cheap, plentiful and quality food has to our general health. Possibly the most telling indictment of non-commercial farming is its inefficiency, its high cost and its wasteful use of land. The facts cannot seriously be disputed. Yields of most crops from organic farms are about 20 to 50% lower than from conventional farming. That's why organic food costs more. And efficiency matters. It affects the health of low-income families. Even in a prosperous society like Australia, we should not ignore the importance of cheaper ways of producing food, provided they are not based on intolerable breeding conditions for animals, for poor practices for the land, or inefficient use of our limited water supplies. Prosperous middle-class consumers may not care about price, but the poorer you are, the more the price of food matters. Pesticides keep the cost of fruit and vegetables down, and if the organic lobby prevails, they will become more expensive. People in the lower income groups will buy less, and this is all the more important since they are now exhorted to eat more of them to help control obesity. Moreover, the more pervasive the propaganda that the more expensive organic food is, quote, safer and healthier, unquote, a claim entirely unproven in any scientific study, the greater the pressures on poorer families will be to buy food that they can ill afford. Their diet will suffer and they will lose their protection against cancer that a healthy diet provides. More will die younger. The environment also suffers if farming is inefficient. Organic farming wastes farmland. Since Australia produces an excess of food as the result of an efficient farming, farmers can be encouraged to set aside areas of their land for environmental purposes, as many farmers do. However, all these considerations are minor compared with the world as a whole. Farmers in Africa and Asia are already organic. They do not use pesticides or artificial fertilisers because they cannot afford them. The Green Revolution passed them by, which was one of its failures. The organic movement seems to go back to the days of the Green Revolution. Unlike GM crops, it cannot help eliminate pests and diseases that destroy nearly half the crops in Africa, or the development of drought-resistant crops that can grow on arid or semi-arid land. It cannot even match the yields which conventional farming already achieves. Organic farming may satisfy the whim of the rich Australian consumer. Its extension to the developing world would be a disaster. As the Indian biotechnologist C.S. Prakash has correctly observed, the only thing sustainable about organic farming in the developing world is that it sustains poverty and malnutrition. I support this bill.